Breaking right now on Morning News Now, a breakthrough deal between Israel and Hamas to release dozens of hostages held captive in Gaza.
It's really hard for us, but we're waiting for all of them to come back.
The agreement just made after weeks of negotiations, with the U.S. playing a key role in securing the deal. Also this morning at the Vatican, Pope Francis meeting with the families of some of the hostages. We have team coverage. And it's the nightmare before Thanksgiving. Millions of people traveling by plane, train, and automobile to make it home for the holiday. So will the weather cooperate with your plans? We are tracking the conditions, including a storm system making its way across the Northeast. Plus, more Americans passing on precautions when it comes to COVID-19. What doctors want you to know before you gather for the holiday. And a match to be thankful for. Joe is going to introduce us to a duo selected to take part in tomorrow's big Thanksgiving Day parade. I can't believe it's tomorrow.
I know, and it's a heartwarming story. They'll be marching with so many other people. Looking forward to the parade tomorrow. Good morning. Good to have you with us on this day before Thanksgiving. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to get started this morning with that breaking news overnight. An agreement made between the Israeli government and Hamas to release dozens of hostages in exchange for a pause in fighting and the release of some Palestinian prisoners held in Israel.
Qatar, which served as a mediator between the two sides, formally made the announcement after nearly 5 hours of deliberations among Israeli cabinet members. Now, once implemented, it will mark the first pause in fighting since the war began on October 7th. Family members of the hostages are now speaking out, voicing some concerns and uncertainty despite the major diplomatic breakthrough.
You know, it's like a Russian roulette. We are waiting to see who will come back home. It's crazy. We don't have names yet. Only speculations that it's going to be mothers and their children. It's tough, very tough.
Prime Minister Netanyahu also spoke after the announcement, warning the war will continue with Hamas following the pause. The United Nations issued its own warning yesterday, saying nearly 2 million people have been displaced by the war. We have our team standing by to break down this agreement between Israel and Hamas, including NBC News foreign correspondent Claudio Lavanga and retired Navy SEAL Commander Dan O'Shea.
Yeah, but first let's bring in NBC News foreign correspondent Raf Sanchez. He's in Tel Aviv, and NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli.
So, Raf, let's start with you. Walk us through some of the details of the deal. How many hostages are being released? When does this start? And for how long could we see a pause in fighting?
Joe, Savannah, good morning. This deal was approved in the early hours of the morning by Prime Minister Netanyahu and his cabinet after an hours-long meeting. Under the terms of this deal, 50 hostages, women and children, to be released in exchange for 150 Palestinian prisoners, also women and children, who will be freed from Israeli jails. There will be a 4-day ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas is saying that ceasefire due to come into effect 10 a.m. tomorrow, 10 a.m. Thanksgiving morning, local time. Israel also agreeing to suspend drone flights above Gaza for a certain number of hours every day. And guys, there is an option for this initial deal for 50 hostages to be extended, with 10 hostages released every day in exchange for an additional day of ceasefire. Right now, we are in a 24-hour period where Israelis have the option to go in front of the Israeli Supreme Court and appeal for the release of these Palestinian prisoners to be blocked. The Supreme Court has never blocked one of these high-stakes negotiations in the past, but we are watching to see if anyone does go to the court and tries to file an appeal to stop this. Prime Minister Netanyahu also yesterday thanking President Biden for his role in mediating these negotiations. Guys.
Mike, let's bring you in here. Walk us through that, exactly what Raf just touched on, what role the U.S. played in this agreement and how the White House is responding.
Well, Savannah, this was a heavy diplomatic lift, and in a statement released overnight, the president thanking the leaders of Qatar as well as Egypt for their role in helping to bring it to reality. The president also calling this deal a testament to the tireless diplomacy and determination of many dedicated individuals. Two of those individuals are Brett McGurk and Joshua Geltzer. They were asked by National Security Jake Sullivan in the early stages of this crisis to oversee a small working group dedicated to this hostage issue. We also know from White House officials that we remember President Biden traveling to Israel. We're told a focus of his meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu, as well as the war cabinet in Israel at the time, was about this hostage issue and the process for potentially obtaining the release of these hostages. Now, these negotiations intensified after the initial release of 2 American hostages, ultimately bringing in the leader of Egypt as well as the CIA director engaged in those talks. We're told that the deal finally did appear to come together over November 18th, this weekend, but it was a tense few days to see it to this point. Now, the president arrived last night in Nantucket, where his family has celebrated the Thanksgiving holiday for decades. We understand that it is possible we may hear from the president more directly today, guys.
So, Raf, we know there's a lot of anxiety among the families of the hostages. How are they feeling right now? Do we know anything about who is going to be released in this agreement?
Yeah, Joe, these families are in limbo. They know that there is a deal. They do not yet know who's coming out as part of this deal. We spoke a little earlier to a man named Gilad. Several of his grandchildren, including his 3-year-old granddaughter, are being held inside of Gaza right now. And we know this deal is for women and it's for children. So there is a good chance that his grandkids may be coming out as part of this deal. But he says he simply does not know at this point. There has been no official confirmation about who is on the list to be released or not. He says that he is holding out hope, but that he just won't know until he has them back in his arms. And his is a good example of just this painful situation that even though 50 hostages are slated to be released, there are 240 hostages being held in Gaza. That is 190 who are not coming out as part of this initial deal, including Gilad's son, the father of these little grandchildren. And he says for him, it won't be until his entire family is out and safe that he will be able to breathe easy. Guys.
Absolutely. And Mike, also, what are White House officials saying? Because we know that we expect Americans to be part of this, to be set free in this first round of hostage releases. What do we know at this point?
Yes, Savannah, as Raf indicates, the exact identity of these individuals is not yet clear. White House officials have been reluctant to get into specifics, but they did confirm that at least 2 American women, as well as a young 3-year-old girl, were among those who should potentially be released as part of this deal. Interestingly, the young girl tragically lost both of her parents in this initial attack. Now, what the White House also is saying is that they hope that this pause will allow them to further identify other Americans who could be part of potential future releases. As Raf also indicates, there are phases of this potential release, this category including women and children, other categories to come. Now, it's also worth noting this young girl who we understand to be part of this deal, I mentioned she was 3 years old. Her birthday, we're told, is actually on Thursday, so a potential reason to celebrate potentially after this is released.
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely. So, Raf, despite this deal, doesn't start till tomorrow, so the fighting does continue in Gaza. Israeli troops continue to surround that Indonesian hospital. Officials say they're also closing in on a refugee camp nearby. So what is the situation there right now? And is the pause in fighting enough time to get that humanitarian aid into Gaza and actually make a meaningful difference?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Joe, and it's one that Palestinian families inside of Gaza are asking right now. I was just speaking with a young mother in Gaza. Her name is Jumana. She says they are hopeful that for the first time in 47 days there will be an end to this bombardment, but that for them and for many families who fled their homes in Gaza City, a 4-day ceasefire doesn't mean that they'll be able to go home. And they expect, as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is saying, that the fighting will resume on the other side of this ceasefire. Now, we think that there are going to be hundreds of aid trucks that will cross over from Egypt as this ceasefire goes into play. But whether that's going to be enough for the more than 1 million displaced people, many of whom are desperately short of food, remains unclear. The UN says it will do everything it can to maximize this ceasefire, to get aid to people. But one of the really big questions here is how much fuel is going to be allowed inside Gaza, because as we have seen over these 6 weeks of war, without fuel, it is impossible to keep the lights on at hospitals, and it is impossible to distribute this humanitarian aid, even if you are able to get it inside Gaza.
All right. Raf Sanchez, Mike Mellonly, thank you both for your reporting. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we're now joined by Dan O'Shea. He's a retired Navy SEAL commander and coordinator for the Hostage Working Group at the U.S. Embassy in Iraq. Dan, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. So first, what are your initial thoughts on this tentative deal, and how much do you see this deal being in the best interest for both sides?
Well, this is the reason Hamas took the kidnapped victims in the first place, because this was going to be their bargaining chip to basically force the IDF to stop this offensive that they knew was inevitable after the October 7 attacks. So it is, again, this deal was not across the table between Hamas and Israel. So I'm very cautious about this until it's complete, because anything could go wrong and this could change overnight. So I'm being tight-lipped on terms of my perspective. It's a positive sign, but it does change the dynamic for both Hamas and Israel, and it may become a blueprint for the future how we get more hostages out. But it is a positive first step, and certainly a relief for these families, and for especially the American family. If they get their loved ones back, it will be a Thanksgiving like no other.
It's a complicated negotiation, to put it mildly. Explain to us some of the meticulous planning that goes on behind the scenes when it comes to trying to coordinate these hostage swaps. What are some of the things that need to even be considered before these exchanges are agreed to and then carried out?
Well, the devil is truly in the details, and I have been tracking this for over 20 years, and I've never seen something as complex as what we have in Gaza. First off, 240-odd hostages, 50 will be released. But what does that mean? How many more? Like, we don't know where all these hostages are being held. We don't know what condition they're in. We know there's roughly 40 kids and a number of senior elderly, many of whom are on heart medications and other medicines. So again, what is the calculus for those 50 that are chosen? That will be, again, there's so many layers to this, and we'll see what happens with the ceasefire coming in tomorrow morning. I hope it goes smoothly, but anything, and especially a very tense situation like Gaza, it could turn and go pear-shaped overnight.
Dan, let's say that it does continue on the path that it seems at this point, and the hostages are released in the coming days. First of all, just walk us through what it's like for them, what kind of support and treatment they're going to get and need, and then also the type of information that can be gleaned from them as there's been this ongoing search within Gaza for where these hostages have been.
Well, first and foremost will be a medical check for everyone, including the young children. Everyone is going to need to be medically screened. And then a health check. I mean, the biggest issue is going to be the long-term mental health aspect of what happened in these 47 days of abject terror. And that will be an ongoing process. And once they've gotten past the medical and the health screening check, there will be questions, because obviously they want to find out how many locations they're held in, what were the conditions at the locations, and ultimately the names of all the other hostages they were held with. That will prove critical to bring about accountability. And I know part of the negotiation is that Hamas has agreed to let the Red Cross and Red Crescent come in and do inventory and health checks on the hostages. So those are positive steps, and there will be a lot of information coming out in these debriefs with those hostages.
All right, Dan O'Shea, thank you very much. We appreciate your perspective this morning.
At the Vatican, Pope Francis met this morning with relatives of Israelis who have been held hostage.
Yeah, the Pope also met with a group of Palestinians who have family members in Gaza. The meetings came just hours after the Israeli government approved this deal with Hamas to release dozens of hostages being held there.
NBC News foreign correspondent Claudio Lavaga joins us now with more on this. Claudio, good morning. So the Pope addressed the war earlier today, speaking at his general audience. What did he have to say, and what more can you tell us about these meetings with the families of the hostages?
Good morning, guys. Well, this morning during the weekly general audience, the Pope said that he heard of the suffering from both sides. As you mentioned, he met in two different occasions, both the families or the relatives of some of the hostages still being held in Gaza, but as well as relatives of Palestinians living in Gaza who are suffering the consequences of the war there. And he said that that is what war does. But also he went as far as saying that the conflict between Israel and Hamas has gone beyond war. He's called it now, it's terrorism. Well, now, among the families of the hostages being held in Gaza were also the parents of Hirsch Goldberg Pauling. He's a 23-year-old American citizen. They spoke to NBC's Ann Thompson this morning. Let's take a listen.
There were 12 of us in the room with him. He was very kind and compassionate and spoke to us for a few minutes before opening up to hear a few of the stories about our loved ones.
Our hope very much is that order is going to come out of this. And so once those first 50 are released, they'll identify and know about the condition of the others, where they are, and we'll start to finally get some news.
They also said that they are aware that their son is probably not going to be among the hostages that are expected to be released in the next hours or days, because there will be mainly women and children. But they say that this is bringing them hope, because maybe in the future more hostages will be released, including, of course, their son. Joe, Savannah?
Claudio, is the aim here that these meetings with Pope Francis have any influence on the hostage situation and the war more broadly?
Well, the Pope told those families that he will do everything in his power, that he will use all the influence that he could have to make sure that all hostages will be released and will be safely returned to their families. Now, of course, none of the parties involved in this war between Israel and Hamas are Catholic, but the Pope is a global leader that is seen as independent and that he is listened to. And the hope here from the Vatican and the Pope is that by showing that both sides are suffering, that may have an impact on this war, guys.
Yeah, I mean, we know the Pope has previously called for a ceasefire, for the hostages to be released. Remind us what he thinks needs to happen in the region.
Well, the Pope and the Vatican is one of those countries that has long recognized Palestine as a state, and the Pope has long called for a two-state solution, including in an interview at the beginning of November. That's the long-term solution for the Pope and the Vatican. But as you mentioned, since the start of the war, the Pope has called for the immediate release of all hostages, but also for an immediate ceasefire and access of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Guys?
All right, Claudio, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, as we wait the news of a possible hostage release, there's another life and death situation underway in Gaza. Doctors are racing to save dozens of premature babies born in the throes of war. NBC's Erin McLaughlin has the story.
They call him Majul, Arabic for unknown, discovered following an airstrike in Gaza City. The doctors here fear his family is dead. No one has come forward to claim him, he says. More than a week ago, the world first met Majul at the besieged Al-Shifa hospital, along with more than 30 other premature babies.
RPGs. AK-47s.
Israel, the U.S., and the European Union have all condemned Hamas for using hospitals as bases for military operations and for using Palestinian civilians as human shields, which Hamas denies. Eventually, help arrived. 31 babies evacuated. Hypothermic, dehydrated, and starving, yet alive. Although 2 didn't survive the trip to Egypt. Majul stayed in Gaza as they searched for his family, along with 2 others, including little Anas Stete. If we die, we all die together, his father says. The Stete family knows what it means to be torn apart. The violence forced his family south, leaving Anas alone in Al-Shifa. For more than 40 agonizing days, they waited. We lost hope, his dad says. We thought, that's it. We're not going to see our son. But Anastata is going home. We found him, his grandma says. I can't describe this happiness. At least for this family. There's tears of joy and smiles in Gaza.
As for Majul, if no one claims him, officials say he'll be sent to an orphanage, like so many other babies in Gaza. Erin McLaughlin, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
All right, powerful report there.
The Thanksgiving travel rush is now in full swing. Millions of Americans are setting off on their trips today, expected to be one of the busiest days for travel this holiday season.
Drivers in the east are still battling with rain and wet roads this morning, but we can be thankful that conditions are expected to improve later today.
NBC News reporter Gary Grumbach joins us now from a rest stop in Woodbridge, Virginia, with everything you need to know before you hit the road. So, Gary, that storm system moving east slowed things down yesterday. How are conditions on the roads this morning?
Hey there, good morning, guys, from the Dale City rest stop here, about 45 minutes south of Washington, D.C. And yeah, it rained a ton yesterday, rained overnight, so things are really slick and wet on the roads. There's also a ton of fog in the area as well. So that's something to be concerned for if you're heading out on your Thanksgiving travels today. We also talked to our friend Andy Gross at AAA, who gave us some tips and some warnings about something I'd never even thought of before. Take a listen.
The urge to
drive as fast as possible. Don't do that. Wet roads, very dangerous. Try and dial it back a little bit. The roads are going to be covered with leaves. Think of wet leaves as like ice. Every bicyclist knows wet leaves are a hazard. Well, they're still a hazard when you're in your car. Just the dynamics of a leaf, water on the top, water on the bottom, can be very dangerous. So slow down when the roads are covered in wet leaves.
So add wet leaves to the list of things to worry about ahead of Thanksgiving. But today is the busiest day of the Thanksgiving holiday period. We expect millions of people on the road and in the skies today. The busiest time to travel is going to be between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. today, guys.
And Gary, where are we expecting to see the worst road congestion?
So as you might imagine, the metro cities, the bigger cities in this country, places like Seattle, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. But there is some good news for those getting on the road. Gas prices are lower this year than they have been in several years. We're looking at an average right now of $3.28 a gallon.
So you do not have to worry about wet leaves in the sky. Still, the TSA expecting record-breaking numbers for the Thanksgiving holiday period. So what should we know if you're heading out for your flights today and throughout this whole holiday weekend?
As always, get there earlier than you think you need to. And even if you have TSA PreCheck, which you think could actually speed things up, this year it may not actually speed things up as much as you think, because 17.8 million people now have TSA PreCheck. Really what they need is perhaps a TSA PreCheck Plus, guys.
I think they call that clear in some places.
Yeah. That's what I use.
All right, Gary, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, as you just heard from Gary, things are improving, so we're feeling extra thankful today after days of that wet weather in the east. The rainy system is finally in the process of moving offshore.
It could mean some nice weather, maybe a little cold while you're eating your turkey. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman's here with the holiday forecast. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, guys. So good to see you. And yes, finally, we are seeing that big storm system that we've been dealing with for days moving offshore. And we're going to start to see improving conditions, at least through the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast. We have some lingering snow showers and showers in New England. I'll show you that. Also in the Pacific Northwest, we're seeing some wet weather in portions of Oregon and also Washington. That's going to move cross country. But look at all this dry air as we look towards the middle of the country, the northern plains, central plains, southern plains, and portions of the Ohio Valley. But we are still dealing with a little leftover rain, and some of it is heavy in portions of the Carolinas. That's the tail end of this cold front, so it's taking just a little bit longer to move offshore. Where you see those brighter colors, that's where we're seeing the heaviest rain falling right now. And then on the northern side of this, we're seeing some snow falling, and we could see up to 8 inches in some parts in northern Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. We're looking at some snow as well. Where you see those pinks and purples, that's where we're seeing the freezing precipitation. This is going to be a little bit more stubborn, hang on a little bit longer as we go throughout the day. So by this afternoon, this evening, it will be out of here. But the Northeast, we're starting to clear out already, and that system is going to take a hike. It's going to move over the Atlantic. So we're going to see everything sort of improving. We could even see a little sunshine in spots. But we do still have some rainfall to go. That's mainly throughout New England and mainly along the coast here where you see those higher amounts corresponding to an inch, maybe an inch and a half. But most of it is on the lighter side as we go forward throughout this Wednesday. Now, as far as snowfall goes, we're looking at 1, 2, 3 inches, but some spots even up to 8 inches. I saw some reports of even up to a foot in some spots. That's in the highest elevations of northern New England, mainly in Maine, and that's where you see that pink color and also the purple color. Those are the highest amounts. So then let's switch gears, look towards tomorrow, because tomorrow looking really good in a lot of spots too. Starting with New York City, we're looking at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, 8:30 in the morning, mostly sunny skies. It'll be cool. It'll be breezy, but I think the winds are going to stay where they need to be so those balloons can fly. They're going to be inflating them later today. It's going to be cool, 45 degrees, but it could be much worse this time of year. Then for the rest of the country, also looking really good. The problem spot, I don't know if it's a problem, though, it's the Rockies. I think the snow needs to fall there, but we're looking at some snow falling in the Rockies. It will be heavy at times and also really blustery, cold, windy conditions there. Otherwise, looking at the West Coast, we're good. We're looking at sunshine along San Francisco, Los Angeles, looking at partly sunny skies in the Pacific Northwest. Same story in the Northern Plains, the Upper Midwest, Great Lakes, the Southern Plains. So really good conditions if you're looking for dry weather on Thanksgiving. Same story as we look towards New England. We're going to dry it out nicely. Up to 51 degrees tomorrow in Boston. We're looking at 51 in New York City. That could be much cooler too. And then temperatures 59 degrees in Charlotte. So that is Thanksgiving Day. Now, as we look towards the weekend outlook, we're looking towards Friday. Not a big deal either if you're headed back from your Thanksgiving Day festivities. Still dealing with that big storm system in the Rockies, the highest elevations of the Rockies, where we're going to see heavy snow once again. The winds will be blowing as well. So that's going to be tricky travel, but really dry conditions once again into the Pacific Northwest, the South Central states as well, the Northern Plains, the Ohio Valley into the Tennessee Valley is looking really good. Could see some showers arriving in portions of the Southeast. Blustery and cold, but dry for most of New England. Could see a couple lake effect snow showers in the Great Lakes. Then by Saturday, the snowy and cold still in the Rockies. We're going to deal with that for several days, but dry once again. Chilly highs in New England, also the mid-Atlantic. Temperatures only in the 30s and 40s by Saturday. The Southeast looking good. We're dry down to the South Central states, too. The Northern Plains looking good as well. Central Plains not too bad. And then this is going to be a big travel day as well. So we're going to look closely at this, but this could be worse, too. You know, we're not looking at a big blockbuster storm, but we're looking at temperatures cold throughout the Rockies. We're going to dry out in terms of that snowfall. Lots of sunshine throughout the Pacific Northwest, also down through the Southwest. Light snow through the upper Midwest, the upper Great Lakes, into the Great Lakes. Showers developing along the Gulf Coast states and looking good once again along the mid-Atlantic coast and Northeast, the Southeast. So if you're flying out of any of those areas, we're looking really good. Now, in terms of temperatures, we're really warm today throughout the Northern Plains. Rapid City, 64 degrees. And temperatures not too bad either. Little Rock, Atlanta, Lexington. We're looking at temperatures in the 40s and 50s. So we had the bad weather the past 2 days, but looking much, much quieter.
Wow. All right. Denver almost up to 70 degrees today. Wow.
They have such big swings.
They really do.
Yeah.
It's crazy weather there.
To it.
Yeah.
Beware of wet leaves.
Yeah.
I am a scary wet leaves part.
Never thought of that before. All right.
Thanks, Michelle. Much more to come here on Morning News Now later this hour. Turkey dinner with a side of tension with so many hot topics in the news today. How do you keep the peace with loved ones you might not agree with? Maybe we'll get you some tips for that.
First, though, after the break, another shakeup in Silicon Valley. OpenAI reinstates its CEO just days after firing him. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. In a dramatic Silicon Valley boardroom twist, OpenAI has reinstated Sam Altman as CEO. Altman returns from Microsoft just days after a majority of OpenAI's more than 700 employees threatened to quit the company en masse following the board's shocking decision to kick Altman out of the company that he helped build.
Altman posted on social media last night. He said, quote, "I love OpenAI and everything I've done over the past few days has been in service of keeping this team and its mission together." Altman added that he looks forward to building a strong partnership with Microsoft going forward. He'll do that with the help of a new board at OpenAI, which replaces the board that ousted him on Friday.
Well, it may be the season of giving for most of us, but for scammers, it's the season of taking. As scams become more complex, NBC News correspondent Noah Pransky found out what you need to watch out for.
Avoiding shopping scams used to be so simple. Watch out for pickpocketers. Don't send money online to strangers. If an email looks fake, it probably is. But in 2023, the scams are a lot more sophisticated than you may have realized.
These are organized criminal gangs, often located overseas, who are very savvy at what they do.
John Brio with the National Consumer League has been tracking really convincing websites, product reviews, shipping alerts, all fake. Basically, these aren't the same old Nigerian email scams. Just ask a former Nigerian scammer.
It's getting so sophisticated now. They're becoming smarter every day.
Chris Maxwell, zooming in from the middle of the night in Nigeria, is a reformed scammer now consulting for the site socialcatfish.com. He says scammers aren't just looking for a quick payday these days. They want a gift that keeps on giving. Just one of your major passwords, since so many of us reuse them across multiple accounts.
Once you have access to the password, you have access to their social security number, you have access to their driver's license, you have access to their credit cards, you have access to their bank account. Very easy to do a lot of damage with information like that.
So here are 5 quick tips to defend yourself against 2023's most dangerous thieves and hackers. Number 1, don't reuse passwords. I know it's impossible to remember 300 different logins, but at least use different passwords for your bank and email. Consider using a secure password manager to make it all easier. And always use 2-factor authentication for those really important accounts. Number 2, look out for shipping scams. Get an email or text about a delayed delivery? Don't click, don't respond, don't call the number. To avoid a trap, get your updates from the retailer or the shipper's sites. Tip number 3, you may think I'm nuts here, but update your software. About 4 in 10 Americans hammer that remind me later button when prompted to patch up vulnerabilities, and it's music to hackers' ears. Well, this is me, reminding you later. Update your phone and your software. Tip number 4, Pay with a credit card. They have much better protections than most of the new digital payments scammers prefer.
Bitcoin, gift card, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle.
If they ask you to pay a risky way, run away.
You pay the safest way. That's with a credit card for most people.
And tip number 5, beware of really convincing online websites you've never heard of. Even Black Friday deals have their limits.
Listen to your gut. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is.
With any luck, your vigilance will ensure some happy holidays. At least until those credit card bills roll in come January.
That's true. Wow, packed with good information. Our thanks to Noah Pransky for those tips.
Coming up, new developments in the battle over abortion rights in America. When we return, we're going to take you to Missouri for a controversial ruling that could impact the 2024 election.
Plus, new research answering the age-old question, why not? Why you might want to skip out on that second glass of red tomorrow. You're watching Morning News Now.
We're back with a look at a topic that will play a major role in many 2024 election races, abortion rights. NBC's Dasha Burns takes us to Missouri, where the state Supreme Court recently declined to consider an appeal on abortion ballot language.
Weeks after Ohio voted in favor of abortion protections, activists are hoping to continue that momentum in a state with one of the strictest bans in the country.
Looking at Ohio, and 18 counties that voted for Trump voted to approve abortion rights. That's not a fluke, that's a pattern.
Two competing groups are looking to put abortion access on the ballot in Missouri in 2024, one of them led by a Republican.
I'm from Missouri.
Jamie Corley is behind a proposal that would allow abortions up to 12 weeks and add exceptions for fatal fetal abnormalities, rape, and incest if reported to a hotline.
Some people watching this might say, what the heck's going on?
Right. So I am a Republican, and I am also pro-choice. I think that we now know that there are many more like me than one would think.
A more progressive group wants to allow abortions later in a pregnancy.
Why not try for something more expansive?
It goes back to what is passable today. Women are truly, their lives are at risk when they're pregnant in Missouri. We need something that can pass, and we believe that voters will support this.
But she's facing opposition both from groups that want to keep the ban in place.
In Missouri, we are a pro-life state, and we've been a pro-life state for 50 years.
And groups that want more abortion protections, like Planned Parenthood.
The idea that we would limit access at an arbitrary gestational age really does say that we aren't paying attention to what's actually the lived reality and what's happening on the ground right now.
Isn't 12 weeks better than nothing?
I'm going to just say no, it is not.
Views on abortion often defy party lines. So the question is, what will voters support? Allie Rand is a conservative Catholic mom of 5. She says she never imagined she'd support abortion rights until she experienced complications while pregnant with twins.
It was terrifying. It felt very like I had no options here. If something were to go wrong, what was I going to do?
What did that feel like to know that in the state where you live
and love? I love living in Missouri.
That you had no choices.
It's just a really helpless feeling. It almost makes you feel like if you chose to leave the state, that you're a criminal.
Her twins were born healthy, but she says she now supports abortions up to 12 weeks. Dasha Burns, NBC News, St. Louis, Missouri.
Well, now it is time for your weekly medical checkup.
From red wine headaches to staying safe while traveling, this week we're going to talk about all the ways to stay healthy this Thanksgiving.
That's right. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar is here on set with more. Good morning.
Good morning to you both.
Let's start on COVID. Yes. So there's this new national poll that's by what's called KFF COVID-19 Vaccine Monitor. It's finding that most Americans both don't really seem that worried about getting COVID and also that they don't plan to get the booster.
I know.
What do we think about this? And especially what should we remember as we are about to gather? It's getting colder. We're going to be indoors.
Yeah, I think generally in this country there's been this sort of feeling that we don't want to worry about COVID anymore. And this, look at these polling results. Only 1 in 5 have gotten the booster. And of those who haven't, a third say they probably won't get it. But what was interesting was that Black and Hispanic individuals were more likely to have gotten the booster than Caucasian individuals. So you can think about that for a little bit. Look, my doctor's orders are very straightforward. We are still recommending a COVID shot, an updated booster. Everybody over the age 6 months and older is eligible for both COVID and flu shots. And I always like to put a plug in there for the flu shot, too, because it's not just COVID that we're worrying about. Testing is still something that we all should be doing if you're not feeling well. Yeah. COVID.gov, or I can't remember what the website is right now. Mandy Cohen on the Today Show yesterday announced that they're giving out free tests again. And if you're sick, you're wearing a mask inside. You know, I know like we travel on mass transit and airplanes and we're not seeing a lot of masking, but it is still a very good way to protect yourself and to protect others.
Yes, definitely. All right, so if you are traveling, it's stressful anyway.
Yes.
You're traveling with young children. It's even more stressful. So
sure is.
Maybe your doctor's hat and your parent hat here. What are some tips, especially if you're a new parent and you're traveling?
Well, especially with young ones, it's difficult. So the American Academy of Pediatrics has some tips for parents. And the first one is, if you can avoid it, try not to travel with your children if they're under 6 months of age. Not only are they're much more susceptible to getting sick, they're really too young to be vaccinated for flu and for COVID. If they are eligible for vaccination, make sure that they're up to date on their vaccines, COVID, flu, and also for little ones between 0 and 8 months, the RSV monoclonal antibody. There is an FAA-approved seat for airplanes. Try to sit next to the window. Look for rows that are wider. Avoid sitting on the aisle seat because when they're passing out hot drinks and things like that, things can spill on children. So doctor's orders also plan ahead and also to expect delays, obviously. And if your child is feeling sick before you travel, get them tested for strep versus flu versus COVID, because there are things that they can and are eligible to actually be treated for before you go away on said vacation.
All right, red wine headaches.
The big one.
Lay it on us.
Okay. You guys have heard of flavanols, right?
Yes.
These are the things in red wine, especially, but also in fruits and vegetables that are actually really healthy for us. Quercetin is one of those. It's an antioxidant. Antioxidants are supposed to only do good things, but apparently in wine, and this is just a hypothesis, this is not 100% proven, it prevents the metabolism of alcohol, which means alcohol isn't getting broken down. It means it's getting turned into something called acetaldehyde, which is the culprit chemical that gives us the headaches. So, and we asked about how can you avoid it? Well, obviously, doctor's orders are don't drink, or limit if you're vulnerable
Only
to
the
getting
second glass?
the red wine. Avoid that second glass. Maybe drink something alternative. One thing that was interesting about the quercetin story is that it happens to be. The quercetin levels happen to be higher in grapes and clusters that are exposed to the sun when they are not fermenting, but whatever the process is, growing, as opposed to the shade. So, for example, Napa Valley wines tend to be more, the clusters tend to be very much sun exposed, so there's higher levels of quercetin, Joe. So you might want to think about that when you're in Napa and buying a case of red wine that you're bringing back to the East Coast.
One glass at a time. You're going to have to savor it even longer. All
exactly.
right.
All right, Dr. Azar, thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Coming up on Thanksgiving, family and food could quickly turn into family feud if a controversial topic comes up.
Why you need the red wine. So what you can do to keep the peace at the dinner table tomorrow, we've got some tips next on Morning News Now.
We are back with financial headlines for you, starting with what the Federal Reserve officials said at their most recent meeting.
CNBC's Silvana Henao has that and other money news. Silvana, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Savannah. Yeah, so the Federal Reserve is in no hurry to cut interest rates, especially as inflation remains well above their goal. Minutes from this month's Fed meeting show members still worry prices could be stubborn or even move higher, and more action may be needed. Wall Street traders are betting the Fed is done with hiking rates and are pricing in cuts starting as soon as March. They believe the Fed will cut rates by about 1% by the end of next year. Warren Buffett says Berkshire Hathaway has the right CEO to succeed him. In a letter, Buffett says at 93, he feels good, but realizes he is, quote, playing in extra innings. Buffett, the world's fifth richest person, is gradually giving away nearly all the fortune he built at Berkshire, which he has run since 1965. Since 2006, he has donated nearly $52 billion in Berkshire stock to family-run charities and the Gates Foundation. ChatGPT's new voice feature is now available to everyone for free. Users can tap the headphones icon to talk with ChatGPT in the mobile app and get an audible response. OpenAI first rolled out the ability to prompt the chatbot with your voice and images in September, but that was just for paying customers. A demo in OpenAI's announcement jokes about the boardroom drama at the company this past week, with someone asking, quote, "It's been a long night for the team and we're hungry. How many 16-inch pizzas should I order for 778 people?" That's the total number of employees at the company, guys. I can go for pizza.
Good to see they have a sense
of humor. Savannah, thank you.
So with Thanksgiving less than 24 hours away, families around the country are preparing for the big meal.
That's right, but with so many polarizing topics in the news, gathering around the table can also bring a lot of stress.
That's why we're joined by licensed marriage and family therapist Dr. George James. Good to have you with us. So between the Israel-Hamas war, inflation, politics, and an impending election, there are a lot of potentially fraught topics that may pop up at the Thanksgiving table. So what are the best steps we can take before the big meal to try and mitigate any tense encounters, stop them, prevent them? What should we do?
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. Yes, this can be a really hard time for lots of people. And so one of the things I want people to do ahead of time is to have a pre-game strategy. That might mean you might need to talk about what guidelines or what topics, what are we going to do before we even get to the table? And if you can, maybe have some of those conversations early, but you want to think about what is the right moment. But you want to have a plan and a strategy, because if you don't have a plan, it can get really messy really quick.
So, people might think, I got that one family member that just can't let it go, gotta push the envelope. So if it is just inevitable that thorny topics are going to come up, what is the best way to deal with it?
If you're hosting, one of the things I would want you to do is maybe have a set of topics that you want to talk about or that you want the family to discuss. So even if someone else brings up a topic, you can redirect if necessary, or you can engage it in the way that you would like. Also, you want to be able to model that behavior. Don't get tense or argumentative. Try to have a conversation, and also be aware of how much alcohol you have on the table, because that might increase how intense those conversations get.
And you might have a headache.
Exactly. If it's red wine, you might get a headache.
Or the conversation.
So if there is just no avoiding those hot button issues, no matter how hard you try, is there a way to turn that into a productive conversation over dinner, after dinner?
Yeah, I think that it's also great to have these conversations because you can engage and learn more from each other. I would want people to lead with respect. Also to know that it's okay to have your opinion and perspective, but this is not the time to try to convert your family members. Also, it's okay if it gets to a place for you to say, I need to excuse myself from the table or from this moment. And also try to share resources with each other, and also be aware of what is happening in terms of the young folks that's there. What is it that you want them to know? But really remember, this is your family and a time to have connection with each other.
All right, Dr. George James, we always appreciate you helping us out on topics like this. Thank you so much, and happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you both.
Speaking of family, as we count down to Turkey Day, I got a chance to meet a big sister and a little sister from the mentoring network Big Brothers Big Sisters. Their bond has taken them all the way here to New York for the biggest Thanksgiving celebration of them all.
They're not related by blood, but 16-year-old Sophia and her mentor Conch are most definitely a match.
Oh my God. This is so cute.
Paired together 4 years ago through Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Before I met Conch, I would say I was really a really timid person. Being with Conch, it's honestly changed my life.
Conch, what do you think when you hear that?
It's all that I wanted, so it makes me very happy. Our ukulele!
They've bonded over their love of the ukulele. This was the audition video that scored them a trip from San Jose to New York, where they're now preparing to be perched on the singing Christmas tree float at the Thanksgiving Day parade, part of Macy's partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters.
My whole family really grew up on watching the Macy's Parade, so it's really exciting to be here.
Exciting and meaningful, especially after Conch was diagnosed with breast cancer.
I didn't think I would be here for many reasons, and to be here with someone in my life that I've come to see as my little sister and my really good friend, it's just amazing.
How are you feeling right now?
A little emotional, but yeah. I'm so glad that I have Conch, and I'm glad that I was there for her, and I'm just so appreciative of her now.
A match to be thankful for.
And don't forget, you can watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade tomorrow starting at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. right here on NBC. You love just all the little stories that people
I
have
know,
to
it's
bring
so
into
cool.
New York
And
for
you
this
know who
occasion.
ends the parade.
Exactly.
Santa.
And before that, Cher.
Yeah, there you go. Coming up, a sweet Thanksgiving for families in need.
After the break, how some migrant families are getting help from people who face the same challenges. Stay with us. You're watching Morning News Now. Welcome back. Earth has received a laser beam message from more than 10 million miles away. Last week, NASA successfully fired an infrared laser encoded with data toward Earth, and the message was received about 50 seconds later. 10 million miles, that's about 40 times the distance to the moon. The agency says this is the farthest ever demonstration of communication. This data tool is a significant step toward increasing the amount of data that can be transmitted throughout the solar system. So in the future, astronauts on missions to Mars might actually use this technology.
Wow.
Very cool.
You love space news here. Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Well, we end this hour with some thanks and a whole lot of giving right here in New York. Migrant families, many who had to flee their own homes, are now getting the chance to help others facing the same challenging circumstances, and they're doing it through baking. NBC News correspondent George Solis has this story.
Deliveries don't come more special than this. Inside each box, a baked flurry of flavor crafted with care. Some 500 pumpkin and apple pies, not just made in any kitchen, but in this New York City school cafeteria, going to feed the less fortunate this Thanksgiving week. And many of the bakers have never celebrated Thanksgiving before or had these types of pie themselves.
So esto es nuevo para usted totalmente. Totalmente, no? Yeah. Totally new for him, this whole concept of Thanksgiving.
They are from migrant families from across the globe who have fled untold horrors, and in some cases know what it's like to end up in the city shelter system while seeking asylum. Like Darwin Reyes, who says he and his 7-year-old son Santiago escaped being kidnapped and tortured by militants in his native Colombia.
¿Qué significa eso para usted? What does it mean to be helping other families in similar situations today during Pi Day?
Bueno, realmente estas tradiciones son nuevas para nosotros.
Pi Day represents to give thanks and to have this culmination of families in similar situations all united under one roof to do something that means so much to so many people.
I'm a big believer that our services need to be individualized.
The group behind the Pi Day event, Project Russo, a nonprofit who's been providing full-scope legal services to nearly 1,000 migrants and their families.
You know, we always ask that question, is this our fight to fight? And this was immediately obvious that this is our fight to fight.
Lately, its work has shifted to address the estimated 120,000 migrants that have arrived in the city this year alone.
And when we think about it, Thanksgiving started as welcoming a stranger to America, wasn't it? So it's very much the same spirit.
Also caught in that spirit,
Sure.
the Shanori family, who fled ethnic, religious, and political persecution by the Taliban.
I feel that I'm really thankful to God because I was the luckiest person among Afghan women who has the opportunity to educate and continue and follow my dreams. I know that this opportunity cannot be given to everyone.
So it doesn't matter where you're from, what country you come from, friendship, family, that is true everywhere.
Exactly. Especially for the immigrants, that U.S. is the land of dreams, the land of opportunities.
Families who have had to rebuild their own lives, now hoping to help others do the same, even if it's one pie at a time.
How incredible. Our thanks to George Solis for that report. What a delicious way to give back.
Absolutely. And now I'm
about pie.
I'm literally thinking about pie right now.
There you
but
go.
I'm always
Thinking about pie.
That'll do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
The news continues right now. Stay with us. Good morning. Happy day before Thanksgiving. Thanks for joining us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, temporary truce. Israel and Hamas agreed to a 4-day pause in fighting that will allow for the release of 50 hostages held in Gaza and 150 Palestinian prisoners held in Israel, all expected to be women and children. Despite the deal, Israel says it will press on with the war and continue to attack Gaza after the pause. We've got all the reaction to that truce and what comes next. Also this morning, record crowds are expected to head to airports and take to the highways as millions of Americans gear up for the Thanksgiving holiday. But bad weather could hamper those travel plans. What you need to know to make sure your journey goes smoothly and safely. Well, many of us will be enjoying a Thanksgiving turkey dinner tomorrow. Others may not be so fortunate. A new report reveals an alarming rise in food insecurity. We'll take a look at what's behind this worrying trend. Plus, if you're planning to head to the movies this weekend, we have got just the ticket. The historical drama Napoleon is among our top picks to check out in this week's Can't Miss list. Our friend Darren Karp will join us a little later.
We're actually going to have multiple can't miss lists for you this week. This is a nice little one before a holiday.
Can't miss lists.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. We begin this hour with new developments in the hostage negotiations between the Israeli government and Hamas.
Yeah, Israel has agreed to pause fighting for 4 days and to release dozens of Palestinians held in prisons in Israel. In exchange, Hamas is set to release dozens of hostages that were taken on October 7th. Global leaders are calling the deal a major breakthrough at a time when the situation in Gaza could not be more dire. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons joins us now from Tel Aviv with all the latest details here. Hi, Keir, good morning.
Savannah, good morning to you. A pause in the fighting for Thanksgiving morning. Hamas saying in the past few hours that the pause will begin at 10 a.m. tomorrow. The Israeli government keeping the Biden administration waiting with 9 hours of tense talks before finally making that announcement. And then President Biden welcoming it in a statement saying the First Lady Jill and I have been keeping all those held hostage and their loved ones close to our hearts. Coming home, around 50 of the women and children taken in the October 7th terror attacks. 3 Americans are expected to be released in the first group, a senior administration official says, including 3-year-old Abigail Moridan, her family hoping she'll be home for her birthday on Friday.
She's turning 4, and to just imagine that she comes home and is with her family is our light right now. In such a very dark and terribly horrific period.
Here in Israel, urgent phone calls to families. The mother of 21-year-old Mia Sham, last seen in a Hamas propaganda video almost 5 weeks ago, praying she'll soon see her daughter in person. How are you feeling this morning, Karen?
Shaking since the moment I woke up. It's like a Russian roulette. We are waiting to see who will come back home.
President Biden thanking mediators in Qatar and Egypt and Israel's Prime Minister, who pushed through the deal in a tense government meeting where he insisted a brief truce would not end the war. And just yesterday, fierce fighting. 250 airstrikes, Israel says, ahead of the initial 4-day humanitarian pause starting tomorrow. In exchange for 50 hostages, 150 Palestinian prisoners, including some women and teenagers, will be released by Israel. The Red Cross will be given access to the hostages still held, while humanitarian aid will get to the people of Gaza, 300 to 400 trucks a day, and fuel. The biggest diplomatic breakthrough since 1,200 were murdered on October 7th, and according to the Hamas-run health ministry, more than 14,000 killed in Gaza. And this morning, so many hostage families hoping the agreement holds.
Have you allowed yourself to think about what you might say to her the first time you see her?
I don't think I will speak. I will just hold her and hug her, and I just want to hold her.
And according to a list, Savannah, that we have just seen in the past few hours of the Palestinians who will be released, they are mainly men accused or convicted of various offences, including throwing stones, all the way through to terror offences like attempted murder or making explosives. Meanwhile, if this deal holds, Savannah, then there will maybe further days of pauses, and for each day, 10 more hostages would be released, Savannah.
All right, Keir Simmons, thank you very much for your reporting here. We are now joined by longtime former NBC News correspondent and Tel Aviv bureau chief, Martin Fletcher. Martin, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. You have been so generous since this crisis has started, both with your professional, your expertise connection here to this region, but also a very personal one. You've shared with viewers that you had relatives who were taken hostage last month. 2 hostages, they were released. You may not be able to separate the two necessarily. I know, of course, how personal something like that is, but as someone who has both covered the region for decades, but also somebody who has experienced that in this personal way, what's your reaction first just to hearing about the details of this deal?
Well, joy. I mean, you know, we're going to have about 50 people at least, hopefully, if it holds, returning to their families. So this is a time of joy. But, you know, Israel is becoming like a manic depressive country. It's a mix of joy and also sorrow because so many families will not get their loved ones back. But as you know, you mentioned my personal side of it. We have still, my family still has 7 hostages in Gaza, and hopefully there will be some of them will be among the people freed. You know, we have a 3-year-old Yael, an 8-year-old Nave, a 12-year-old Noam. And so we're hoping they will be among the children being released, and we have women among the hostages too. So, you know, everybody's just holding their breath, crossing their fingers, hoping that our family members come home. And again, as always, emphasizing that 50 is only a small number compared to the 190 hostages, roughly, who will still be somewhere inside some tunnel underneath Gaza with their hands probably tied behind their back. Who knows? So, yeah, joy, but also still not a reason to celebrate because of the bigger picture. I mean, Savannah, it's like, you know, how do you celebrate when you know what else is happening to other people at the same time? But certainly within the families of the people who are going to be receiving their loved ones, it's going to be a very, very bitter but sweet occasion.
And so striking when you read off the ages of the people who are still being held hostage, Martin. Absolutely. Do you see this deal? Could it be a major turning point in the war, or could it just be that after the pause, things resume as they were before?
Well, look, Joe, realistically, you know, this is a very, very significant moment, but it's also a very limited moment. Hamas knows the value of the hostages. They're not going to release them all quickly. Israel has said that the maximum pause they're going to allow is 10 days, after which the war will continue. So, yes, there's a reason to have great hope now for this pause of 4 days that potentially could become 10 days. But it's just this pause and the exchange of hostages for Palestinian prisoners is just a first step. It's the beginning of a very long road. The Hamas has said they're not going to be releasing, for instance, the Israeli soldiers, male and female, and also probably Israeli men of fighting age. They could be hostages for a very long time, So this is a significant step, but a very limited one too.
Martin, these hostages who hopefully are to be released, similar to your family members that have been thus far, are going to have stories to tell, of course, about how they were treated, what they went through, where they were kept, who they were kept with. What kind of impact do you think that's going to have on what happens next, and how important is that type of information to the ongoing conflict?
Well, first of all, they will all be debriefed by the Israeli military and secret services, so that they'll give as much information that can be helpful in finding the rest of the hostages and, in fact, in prosecuting the war. So there's that. But apart from their conversations with the security services, it's quite possible they don't speak at all to the public. I mean, that's what happened in the case of our family. The first 2 hostages to be released, Natalie and Judith, were from our family, and they still have not spoken. I think like 5 weeks later, they still have not spoken publicly. Mm-hmm. In fact, I haven't spoken to them, and nobody I know has spoken to them. They're only speaking to the immediate family closest to them. So they're traumatized. We don't know what they went through, and it's going to be the same with these hostages that are being released. There's going to be great joy. There's going to be great, no doubt at some point there'll be a great video of the hostages being released and the joy maybe of them meeting their families. But probably in terms of the public, they'll then go silent because they've got a lot of trauma to deal with. And I don't think we can even imagine what it's like for these people now coming home. You know, what they've been through is just unmentionable and unimaginable. And it's going to take some time for them to speak in public about it, I'm sure, if our family's experience is anything to go by.
Absolutely. Well, Martin, we are thinking about you, especially as this deal is unfolding, and we'll continue to check in with you. As always, thank you very much for spending some time with us this morning.
Thanks, Savannah, Joe.
Thank you, Martin. Hours after the deal between Israel and Hamas was reached, Pope Francis met with the family members of Israeli hostages and spoke about the conflict during his general audience. NBC's Ann Thompson has the latest from Vatican City.
This is a day of fast-moving developments in Israel, Gaza, and here in Vatican City as the world waits for what appears to be an imminent hostage release. This morning, Pope Francis met with families from both sides of this conflict, including an American couple living in Jerusalem whose son was taken captive. This morning, hope finally on the horizon for some hostage families. A deal reached for around 50 of the women and children taken in the October 7th terror attacks to be released. 3 Americans are expected to be part of the group, including 3-year-old Abigail Moore Edon, according to a senior administration official. And hundreds of families hoping it leads to freedom for more hostages, including Americans Rachel Goldberg and John Poland, whose son Hirsch was taken.
We're just parents praying that our son comes out.
We're so happy for the 50 who are getting out. It gives us hope that more are going to follow.
This morning, Rachel met Pope Francis on a mission of hope.
He really shared in our heartbreak, and it was a very validating and beautiful moment.
The number of days her son Hirsch has been held hostage on a piece of masking tape on her chest.
I actually said to him, you know, my heart was taken 47 days ago.
23-year-old Hirsch lost part of his left arm when a grenade exploded in a crowded bomb shelter where he sought refuge from the Hamas attack.
And I quickly showed him the video of Hirsch getting loaded onto the pickup truck with his arm amputated.
How did the Pope react to that?
He put his hand on his heart and he spoke in Italian, saying, "His heart is with me."
This meeting, designed to bring the world's focus to their plight. U.S. Ambassador to the Holy See, Joe Donnelly, was instrumental in making it happen.
Pope Francis, before maybe anybody else, when he speaks, the whole world is listening.
Rachel and John have not heard from Hirsch since. They don't know if he is in pain, if he has had proper medical care. They don't know if he is alive.
We'll talk to whoever we have to talk to. We'll go wherever we have to go to make that happen.
Now, the Pope also met with a group of Palestinian families. At his general audience, he said that both sides are suffering. And he said that this has gone way beyond war. He called this terrorism. The Pope prayed for both the Israelis and Palestinians and also prayed that peace would come at last. I'm Ann Thompson in Rome. Now back to you.
Right, Ann, thank you.
Well, back here at home, the big holiday rush is underway. Whether you're driving or flying to your Thanksgiving destination, you can expect big crowds throughout the day. NBC News correspondent Tom Costello is at Reagan National Airport. Tom, how's it looking so far? How busy are we?
I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, it doesn't look that bad behind you, Tom.
It's kind of bad.
But take a look at the video that I shot this morning, just less than an hour ago. We had incredible lines here at Reagan National Airport. In fact, they stretched for 30 minutes or so all the way down to the parking garage. They brought in the canines, the dogs, to help move the people through the TSA checkpoints. It is very, very busy. We've got delays like this right now across the country, 460 delays, 40 flight cancellations. Why? We had so much rain on the East Coast that slowed things down last night, massive delays and cancellations. That continues to ripple through the system today. The good news is we've got pretty good weather right now, and so they should be able to catch up. At the moment, though, the New York City airports and Boston and Washington Reagan are playing catch-up. They're kind of behind at the moment. In the meantime, if you're going to be hitting the roads, the worst time to drive is coming up in just a few hours. Get moving, America. The clock is ticking. The nation's airports and roads already filling up for the Turkey Day getaway.
We are anticipating a smooth ride.
On Tuesday, heavy rain slowed things down. Today, a better forecast. The best time to drive today, now till 11 a.m. The worst times, 2 to 6 p.m., when traffic will be 11% heavier than normal. Not everyone hates the traffic.
I like traveling on Thanksgiving a lot.
But in the nation's airports,
I wish I would have left yesterday or the day before.
2.6 million air travelers slowly snaked through checkpoints on Tuesday. Even more expected today. In Phoenix and L.A., airport food workers have been on strike.
We need these jobs. We don't want to be replaced with AI and robots.
Meanwhile, Southwest pilots and American flight attendants are threatening to strike, but not for several weeks, if at all.
United 1348 ran push through 10 on.
At Chicago O'Hare, where United is the biggest carrier, it's a full-court press.
United is trusting you guys with their aircraft worth tens of millions of dollars and their passengers, hundreds of them at a time.
Yeah.
That's a big responsibility.
Yeah, when I train people, I always tell people to pretend like your family is on that plane.
Lots of families this time of year. In the terminal, United's Agents on Demand are the latest innovation.
This is Esther, Agent on Demand. How can I help today?
Passengers just click the QR code for a video connection. I'm leaving at 2 p.m. to Washington. I'd love to go closer to 5 p.m. Is that possible?
Yes, perfect. I have a flight at 5:16 if you like that flight.
People like to see people. It's like kind of like that human nature and human touch. So we still provide that without having to stand in line.
No one likes a line, especially in a weather delay. Yeah, so we're going to be watching the weather very closely. Pretty good at the moment. We've recovered from yesterday, but then we've got weather problems into the weekend. And oh, by the way, guess what happens on Sunday? Nearly 3 million people are going to be flying, an all-time record. And we are expecting rain and snow. So, you know, to use a cliche, you guys pack your patience and your teddy bears. Back to you.
There you go. I'm not flying, but can't wait to drive my parents to the airport Sunday.
On Sunday?
Yeah.
Oh, be prepared for them to come back.
There you go. Right. All right. Tom Costello, thank you very much.
All right, let's get a closer look at those weather conditions Tom just mentioned with meteorologist Michelle Grossman.
Yes, it's time for your morning news now. Thanksgiving edition weather. Hi, Michelle. Good morning.
Hi there, guys. Good morning. Yeah, we are looking at that residual delays on the East Coast, as Tom mentioned, because we had all that rain that came through last night. It was heavy rain, and we still have a bit of heavy rain, but that storm system is finally moving offshore. We dealt with it for 2 days. But look at this map. We are pretty quiet in terms of weather. No big blockbuster storms moving through right now. We do have some wet weather in the Pacific Northwest. We have some rain falling. That's where you see the green. We have some wintry weather as well. That's where you see the blue and the pinks. And then pretty clear throughout the middle of the country. It's the East Coast that we're watching. We've been dealing with this storm system for the past couple of days, and we're seeing the lingering effects. The roadways are still really wet out there. We do have some lingering showers, some snow showers in portions of New England. So that's where you see the blue, and we could see quite a bit of snow there, even up to 8 inches in some spots. And that's going to linger throughout the afternoon hours. We have some freezing precipitation there too. And then we have some heavy rain on the tail end of this cold front. This is the last part that's going to move through. Where you see those brighter colors, that's where we're seeing the heaviest rain falling right now. So that system's going to move on its way today. That's good news. We're going to continue to dry out. We may even see a little sunshine breaking through in portions of the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast. That's the good news. It's going to take a little longer, though, in parts of New England, because we're going to hold on to that precipitation a little longer. We're going to add on some rain totals there. We could see up to 1 inch in some spots, maybe 1.5 inches. That's right along the coast there in portions of New England. And I mentioned those snow totals could see up to 8 inches in some spots. That's where you see those pinks and purples, and that's in the highest elevations of northern Maine. Now for tomorrow, looking really good for the parade. Temperatures will be chilly. You need your jackets and scarves and gloves, 45 degrees, but we've been colder, and we're looking at mostly sunny skies. It'll be breezy, but I don't think too windy that it will impact any of the inflatables. So we're looking towards the rest of Thanksgiving. Pretty good. We're looking very, very quiet. Heavy snow in portions of the Rockies, guys. It's going to be dicey there for tomorrow into Friday, where we could see some heavy snow and also some really blustery conditions. So overall, not bad. And it's looking good through Sunday.
There you go.
That's good.
Yeah,
very good. Thanks, Michelle.
Sure.
So if you are traveling for Thanksgiving, hopefully you're taking travel experts' advice and leaving early, which would be now, right?
Yeah, I know. That's the big tip, though. They say staying informed is also key to help you survive the holiday travel rush.
Going travel expert Katie Nastro joins us now with some more tips you can use. So AAA expects more than 4 million people to fly for Thanksgiving. That's between today and Sunday. Today being one of the busiest, Sunday being the busiest. So what can air travelers do to make their time between check-in and departure as smooth as possible?
Sure. So, this is shaping up to be the busiest Thanksgiving travel period on record, but don't automatically assume doom and gloom, since especially even with the weather that we've been seeing over the past few days, airlines have actually been operating about only up to 75 cancellations a day, which, yes, may change, but still significantly lower than the winter holidays last year. So don't just assume absolute dread. Cautious optimism. And before you even head to the airport, download your airline's app. If any changes occur that impact your plans, you want to be one of the first to make changes. And a lot of the apps have a self-service already built in. It's a first comes first serve when it comes to rebooking, as well as a lot of check-in process can already be done within the app, with your phone before even getting to the airport, so you can bypass kiosks and desks if you aren't checking a bag.
So I think everyone was so scarred from last year and how there was the Southwest meltdown, but then also the lost luggage thing came kind of out of nowhere as a regular concern for flying. What should you do in trying to locate your luggage? Make it as simple as possible and avoid losing it.
Sure. Obvious piece of advice, don't check a bag. But hey, I overpack. Sometimes it's unavoidable. You travel with families. You need stuff. Best piece of advice, yes, use one of those tiles or an Apple AirTag, but take another step before you close up your bag and give it to the baggage check-in. Take some photos of the contents. So if you do need to make a claim, you have evidence of the exact contents so you can write all of it down and be exactly sure what you are missing. And while it doesn't happen often, try to take off any stickers from your last flight, since those are used as backup barcodes, and if that original tag gets ripped off. So you just want to minimize any risks of your bag getting lost. And then if it does, you have those photos to equip yourself if it does.
Very quickly, let's talk about driving. We heard you should avoid 2 to 6 p.m. today. Anything else?
Yeah, first and foremost, if you can, check or try to fill up at the gas pumps. 30% cheaper than we saw last Thanksgiving. So it's a great time to fill up, but try to do it a day before or, super early in the morning, just to avoid any more time that you are spending on the road. Head out before 11 if possible.
All right. Katie Nastro, appreciate the tips. Thank you so much.
Happy Thanksgiving. Well, coming up today marks 60 years since the assassination of JFK.
We're going to look back at the moment that stunned the world and visit a new exhibition that's giving us some new insights into the somber anniversary.
Welcome back. The U.S. has conducted a series of precise airstrikes in Iraq overnight.
The strikes destroyed 2 facilities near Baghdad. U.S. officials say this latest round of American military force in the region is a direct response to ballistic missile attacks against U.S. forces by Iran-backed militia groups.
Joining us now with more on this is NBC News Pentagon correspondent Courtney Cubie. Hey, Courtney, good morning. So this incident comes a day after a U.S. military gunship killed 3 militants linked with Iran in a separate round of strikes. Tell us about both these events.
Yeah, I have to say, we've really seen an escalation of what's been happening in Iraq over the last 36 to 48 hours, Savannah. So this all started Monday when an Iranian-backed militia group we now know as Kataib Hezbollah, it's generally called KH, they're trained, equipped, funded by Iran. They fired a close-range ballistic missile at Al-Assad. That's a base housing Americans in western Iraq. Now, fortunately, the missile hit an unoccupied building, but a number of American service members reported some minor injuries and the building was badly damaged. Now, because of that, at that time when that missile was fired, there happened to be an AC-130 gunship. That's a U.S. military plane that was overhead. It actually saw the missile as it launched, was able to track the individuals who launched it, and then target them very quickly after that missile hit the base, killing several of these militants. Then I'm just learning in the last couple of moments that, in fact, after that attack on Al-Assad yesterday, this same militia group fired multiple drones at Al-Assad again. Several of them were able to impact. Others were knocked down. There were no injuries, no U.S. casualties or damage to any infrastructure. But after that, late last night, the U.S. military targeting again. Using some fighter aircraft and precision-guided munitions, the U.S. struck 2 targets south of Baghdad. They were places where there was command and control for KH and then also an operations center. Now, why this is significant is, number one, the fact that these strikes have occurred in Iraq. It's the first time since this uptick in attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria that we've seen the U.S. actually target and strike back inside Iraq. Next, what we've also learned is, for the first time, these seem to be the U.S. targeting individuals. So whereas in Syria, they were going after facilities, there were cases where there were individuals present. But the AC-130 gunship yesterday specifically targeted a vehicle, knowing individuals, knowing that some of these militants were inside. The reality is we have seen this situation escalate over the last couple of days, Joe and Savannah.
Yeah, and Courtney, as you've reported, we've seen this recent increase in U.S. military action in the region. Does this mean anything for America's involvement in the Israel-Hamas war?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, Joe. Despite the fact that the U.S. officials at the Pentagon want to say this has nothing to do with Israel, the reality is none of this happens in a vacuum. And we hadn't seen these sorts of tit-for-tat attacks and strikes since March of this year. They really started up again on October 17th. And ever since then, they have been consistent. We're going on 70 attacks on U.S. bases since October 17th, and the U.S. continues to respond. The real concern here is that if, in fact, one of these attacks is really successful, Americans are badly injured or killed, this is going to lead to an escalation and a widening of the conflict in Israel and Gaza. That's what officials at the Pentagon are really concerned about, Joe.
And we know you will keep your eyes on it for us. Courtney, thank you so much.
60 years ago today, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. It was a moment that brought the nation to its knees in collective mourning. Now, decades later, there are still so many unanswered questions about that fateful day in Dallas. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky is at Dealey Plaza, where many still come to pay their respects. Morgan, good morning.
Joe, that's right. So many people have been coming here to remember that fateful day. And you can read all the books, watch all the movies, but it's not until you stand here in Dealey Plaza that you feel the sheer weight of what took place. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy has often been called the end of America's innocence and perhaps the beginning of its biggest and most enduring mystery.
60 years after the fateful day in Dallas, the words still stun.
President Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time.
America's young, inspiring president gunned down by a man the Warren Commission would later claim acted alone, firing 3 shots from this 6th-floor window in a book depository.
We have to learn why the death of this one man so impacted the nation and the world.
Stephen Fagan is curator at the 6th-floor museum at Dealey Plaza, giving today a first look at a new exhibit, 2 days in Texas, marking the somber anniversary.
This particular artifact has never been displayed before.
Sharing how a trauma surgeon ditched protocols in an effort to save the president.
He didn't have a chance to change into surgical scrubs, and so he was wearing his dress shirt, which was stained with the president's blood.
JFK's personal possessions, letters, books, even a boat, now all coveted pieces of history.
His death changed things. It really did. It changed the course of 20th century American history.
Which is why so many still come here to remember and pay tribute. Multiple X's marking the spots where bullets found their mark in 1963.
The X's, that's something I hadn't seen before. And that really kind of gets me.
And everyone has their own thoughts on Lee Harvey Oswald, Kennedy's accused gunman, who was himself killed just 2 days later on live TV.
Do you think Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone?
No, I don't. Oh, my gosh. The older I get, the more I believe he did not.
I think there was probably a conspiracy.
Conspiracy or not, 60 years later, the loss hangs heavy, especially for JFK's family. This picture capturing his daughter, Ambassador Caroline Kennedy, recently honoring her father at Arlington National Cemetery.
Is it the lack of closure here that you think helps keep this story alive?
It is the mystery, the lingering questions that bring people to Dealey Plaza. Hopefully, they leave here with a broader appreciation of who President Kennedy was, what his legacy still means to us today.
And because part of that legacy includes those unanswered questions, the National Archives has announced this year that 99% of formerly classified documents have now been made available to the public. As for that remaining 1%, President Biden has said that they should continue to be processed, released in full, or at least redacted versions until the reasoning behind that initial classification is no longer applicable. Joe?
All right, Morgan, thank you so much.
Let's get you international headlines now. Tensions between South and North Korea grow as North Korea claims to have successfully launched a spy satellite.
NBC's Claudio Lavanga joins us from Rome with that and other world headlines. Claudio, good morning.
Joe, Savannah, good morning. That's right. Today, South Korea announced it will suspend parts of a military agreement it signed in 2018 with North Korea after the North launched a spy satellite. Now, on Tuesday, North Korea defied warnings from the U.S. and its allies and launched the satellite using ballistic missile technology in violation of United Nations resolutions. The Prime Minister of South Korea said that the latest launch by the North demonstrates it has no intention of abiding to the 2018 agreement designed to reduce military tension in the Korean peninsula, and that, as a consequence, South Korea will restore reconnaissance and surveillance activities around the demarcation line that separates the North and the South. Now let's go to the Netherlands, where today polling stations opened in an unpredictable election. The latest polls show that any of the four main parties could win, including a far-right party led by Geert Wilders. His anti-Islam and anti-European Union Freedom Party appear to make a dramatic comeback, with one poll putting it head-to-head with the ruling People's Party for Freedom and Democracy. Other runner-ups are the Labour Green Alliance, led by Frans Timmermans, and a new party of centrist outsider Pieter Omtzigt. And let's end this tour of the world in London, where King Charles III hosted the president of South Korea and his wife at Buckingham Palace Tuesday. South Korean president is on a 3-day state visit to the UK aimed at strengthening trade and defense ties between the two countries. Among the 170 guests invited to the glittering banquet hosted by the King and Queen Camilla were members of the K-pop girl group Blackpink, who the King praised for their role, and I quote, in bringing the message of environmental sustainability to a global audience. Joe, Savannah?
I do like Blackpink.
Yeah.
You know who's a huge Blackpink fan? My mom. There you go.
Who knew? All right.
Claudio Lavanga, thank you very much.
So is the king, apparently.
Yes, right.
Coming up, as many of us prepare to sit down for Thanksgiving dinner, millions of others are not so lucky.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at a new report that's revealing a rise in food insecurity. We'll bring you the details of that up next.
We're back with a look at an issue that's affecting so many families in the U.S., and that's food insecurity. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says a family is considered food insecure when their ability to acquire adequate food is limited by a lack of money and other resources.
And according to a report from the USDA released just last month, 17 million households qualified as that food insecure in 2022. That's up from 13.5 million households in 2021, a big jump.
Joining us now for more on this is Carlos Rodriguez. He is the Chief Policy and Operations Officer for City Harvest. That's New York's first and largest food rescue organization. Carlos, thank you for joining us. So first of all, just help us understand why we're seeing this rise in food insecurity, especially after the pandemic.
Well, thank you for having me. And yes, it's a disheartening number, partly because families who are struggling in New York City really have a hard time getting back to a stable condition after a major disaster. And there has been no more major disaster than the pandemic. So we're talking about 3 million New Yorkers who have a hard time just making ends meet.
Also, Carlos, although this is, of course, an issue that is felt across the country, the impact on children is really striking. This same report, it found that more than 3 million households with children were food insecure at times during last year. It's a rise from 2.3 million in the year prior to that. Are high food costs, how much is that contributing to the spike? Obviously, we know with inflation and everything, it's just been really expensive to go to the grocery store. Walk us through the impact that has here.
That's exactly it. High inflation makes it harder for families that are just getting back on their feet to make ends meet. You have on top of that housing costs, shelter costs going up, especially in New York City and areas like this. And so it just puts more pressure on families who are living paycheck to paycheck. And in fact, it's many working families that we're seeing turning into the lines and making up the lines of pantries and soup kitchens throughout the 5 boroughs.
What is the impact that a holiday like this has on families that are food insecure, and what are some of the resources you're able to provide to help them out?
Well, you know, at a time where we're getting ready to sit around the table and give thanks and share a meal, for many families, it's a time of anxiety and stress. Imagine struggling to put food on the table just on an everyday basis, going through that during the holidays where prices are still high. higher than before the pandemic, if not just a little lower than it was just last year. So it's a time of stress. Also, for many families, as we mentioned, with children, it's a time where there's no school, and no school means no school meals. So it's more meals that have to be provided during these days off.
All right. Carlos Rodriguez with City Harvest, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same to you.
Well, Florida will be well represented at this year's Thanksgiving Day parade. The marching band from Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, that is the site, of course, of the tragic Parkland massacre, will join other performers hitting the streets of Manhattan tomorrow. Julia Bagg from our NBC affiliate in Miami caught up with the students before they hopped on their flight to New York.
Empire State, here they come. From Parkland to New York City. It's a first for the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School Eagle Regiment, and they are ready to take the spotlight on Turkey Day.
I'm pretty excited that we get to go to Macy's Day Parade, like one of the biggest parades in history.
Josiah Jimenez is joining 160 of his friends as their award-winning band marches right into that history.
What a blessing for these students, for our community, for everybody to really see all the positivity that comes out of Stoneman Douglas High School.
And the Eagles are in good company. Once the parade begins, you'll spot some moves straight from Kendall. Dozens of dancers from Maria Verdeja School of the Arts will sashay down 6th Avenue. And Monroe County is representing in Manhattan, too. Marathon Middle High School band director Chuck Brooker will join 400 of his colleagues from around the country, playing the bass trombone as part of the band director's marching band. We caught up with Brooker during his rehearsal in New Jersey.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm just so happy to represent the marathon community and the Florida Keys as the southernmost director performing in the parade. It's very exciting.
But just exactly what these South Florida performers are performing is still a secret.
We can't reveal any of that just yet. You'll have to watch on TV on Thanksgiving morning.
All right, thanks to Julia Bagg for that report. And once again, you can catch the band and, of course, other performers.
Many.
Like
Cher.
In action at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade tomorrow morning. Coverage on NBC kicks off at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Well, coming up, get ready for Turkey Carving 101.
Yeah, you've cooked the bird, you pulled it out of the oven, but just how do you carve that perfect turkey? Well, we have got an expert on hand to slice through the do's and the don'ts.
There he is.
Stay
we can't
with us.
wait.
That's next. Back now with financial headlines. Sam Altman returning to head the artificial intelligence firm OpenAI.
Yeah, big back and forth here. CNBC's Silvana Hanau joins us with that and other financial headlines. Hey, Silvana.
Hey, Savannah. Hey, Joe. Yeah, really a back and forth. Sam Altman is back as CEO of OpenAI 5 days after he was fired by the board. The maker of ChatGPT will now have a new board with the initial members including former Salesforce co-CEO Brett Taylor and former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers. Most of the members involved in removing Altman won't be part of the new board. Since that surprise move, investors have been pushing to reinstate Altman. Hundreds of employees threatened to quit, and Microsoft, which is OpenAI's largest backer, said it was hiring Altman to run a new AI research team. Tesla is rolling out a new congestion fee system for its more than 50,000 supercharging stations worldwide. The company hopes this will free up traffic. The fees are intended to prevent people from fully charging their vehicle at the busiest stations. It will only kick in when stations are busy and your battery is over 90%. Drivers will be able to see where congestion fees apply on their vehicle's touchscreen, and the cost is set at $1 per minute. And the FCC is proposing rules to ban cable and satellite companies from charging early termination fees if you decide to cut the cord. They would also require companies to provide customers with a prorated credit or rebate for the remaining days in a billing cycle after they cancel. The rules are part of the Biden administration's efforts to eliminate excessive junk fees. President Biden saying companies shouldn't lock you into services you don't want. How How about that, guys?
All right, there you go. Good news for us consumers. Savannah Henao, thanks so much.
You got it.
Well, of course, on Thanksgiving, if you've got the job of hosting this year, there's a question that has surely crossed your mind. Mine, because I'm hosting. How to carve a turkey.
So if you have not figured out the best course of action, you are in luck. Today, we're going to be learning the best way to carve the holiday bird so that you can just wow your guests.
Yeah, and then maybe my answer won't have to be ask my dad. Joining us now to share his expertise is Paul Kelly. He's a turkey farmer and the managing director of Kelly Bronze Turkeys. Paul, good morning. So here's what else you are, though. You are the record holder for fastest time to carve a turkey, which is amazing. So first of all, just tell us about that honor and just how fast it is that you carved a turkey.
Okay, yeah, well, it's the Guinness World Record that I hold, and I set it in 2008, and I did a 15-pound turkey into 15 equal servings, all with white meat and dark meat, all plated up with gravy in 3 minutes, 41 seconds, I think it was.
With gravy?
Wow.
What? I don't believe you.
That's amazing. All right, so with that, we're not going for speed. We're going for less frustration, I think, with this Thanksgiving. What are the right ways and the wrong ways to carve the turkey? What should people know even before they begin?
Well, I think, first of all, you want to take the turkey out of the oven and let it rest for at least half an hour before carving it. Then the bird is cool enough, and it takes 2 or 3 hours for the bird to go too cold. So let it get cool so you can actually handle it. And then what we do is we break it down to its primals, which means just taking the wing off, taking the leg off, and then taking the breast off. And once you've removed the meat and those bits off the bird, then you start to carve it to prepare it for the plate. And if you do it that way, you will get between 20 and 30% more servings rather than just kind of the bird's there and you just start attacking it with a knife and a cut.
Yeah, okay, don't do that. Got it.
Don't do that, don't attack it.
Okay, so if it's your first time either carving or even just cooking the turkey, like start from there. Tell us what we should keep in mind when we're even cooking it.
For the cooking, I think the first thing is you need a meat thermometer, right? Because time is purely a guideline. People have these cooking instructions that says 2 or 3 hours. They pop it. Now, time is purely a guideline, and ovens vary so much in temperature, different ovens. And, of course, it also depends on how cold the bird is from the fridge when you're putting it into the oven. So the only sure way of telling whether your turkey is cooked to the right temperature is by using a meat thermometer. And, of course, turkey is not a very forgiving meat. So if you take it over the top, it goes downhill very quickly. And I think that's a huge problem with turkey. Most people just cook it once a year and they think, it is cooked, it looks cooked, I've followed the guidelines, but let's give it another half an hour just to be safe. Of course, that's a disaster because you kind of cremate the turkey rather than cook it. So you really do need to get yourself a meat thermometer. If you're getting a cheaper turkey, brining it is a good idea because they're harvested at such a young age, they don't have any natural fat. So putting it in the brine is a good idea because that's put moisture back into the meat. If you get a mature bird like a Kelly Bronze, it has all its own fat marbling. Yeah, so it doesn't need any help in that respect. The other thing is I always say keep it simple. You can make cooking your turkey as complicated as you want. You can stuff it with all sorts of things. And, cooking it in these big vats of peanut oil, that's a nightmare safety-wise. But you can make it complicated. But if you just do good roast turkey, using a meat thermometer, cooked to the right temperature, 150, it'd be brilliant.
Oh, my God. And let's not let it go downhill fast or turn into a disaster.
Exactly.
Paul, you're scaring me. Okay, I think before we let you go, we got to see a little slicing, right? You have your knife ready? You can do a little carving for us?
We good to go?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay, so we take the wing off. There we go.
There we go.
And then we take the leg off. And you can, if you go onto our website, it shows you all the, there's full instructions on how to carve. And then you see you could start to carve the breast now. I've taken the wing and the leg off, but I'm going to take the whole of the breast off.
Oh, okay.
Using a really sharp knife, and that's important. A sharp knife, and a sharp knife is a safe knife. If it's sharp, you don't apply pressure and you don't run the risk of slipping. So
that's good advice.
Take that breast off.
This part right there would have taken me 15 minutes, so.
So I've taken half off, and then you see, you've got the leg, you've got the breast. Peel the skin off. This is the magic bit. That skin, you put that in a baking tray, season it with salt, and also the skin from the leg, peel that off, and put that in the tray, season it with salt, pop it back in the oven, and then about 20 minutes later, you have beautiful turkey crackling.
Oh,
but now we've got that breast off.
Heard of that.
And then carve lovely slices of turkey meat. And the other thing, you've got the dark meat here. I would say people buying a bone-in breast, if you want value, buy a whole bird. Because when you buy a bone-in breast, if you look at the cost per pound, you pretty much pay for the whole bird anyway. Yeah, because all we do as farmers is what we cut off the turkey, we load it onto the breast. So buy a whole bird because that's great value. And that gives you all this lovely dark meat as well. The leg meat and the back, you get a wonderful gravy from that.
Very good. Piece of cake, or in this case, piece of pie. So, all right.
Paul Kelly, I just want to bite. It looks great. Thank you for joining us. You are the record holder. We are honored to learn from you. Thank you very much, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right.
Happy
Wow, that is a skill right there. My goodness. All right. Time to grab your popcorn, your turkey.
Oh my God, I didn't know you were still on camera. That's right. Thanks a lot, Regina, our director. Ridley Scott's Napoleon is among the biggest movies coming out this Thanksgiving. But even more exciting than that is that Darren Karp is here to talk about it and lots more in our can't miss list. That is up next.
Gobble, gobble.
Let's hear your turn.
There we go. Our Thanksgiving typically kicks off the winter holiday blockbuster season.
So we have a special Wednesday edition of our can't miss list, especially because you're probably kind of headed into your weekend. Anyway, this is all the movies and shows that you got to know about, of course.
Bravo personality and host of Shaken and Disturbed, Darren Karp, is here with a look at what we can't miss. Theaters, 3 very different movies coming out this extended holiday weekend.
You know I cover a cadre of movies here, from everything to Trolls to Squid Games. This is what I'm bringing you guys.
And Napoleon is the one that I think a lot of people are looking at, right?
Yes, this is the new big movie from Ridley Scott. Obviously, he brought us Gladiator, so we're expecting big scenes, big cinema. There's a lot of controversy actually coming out about this movie. Joaquin Phoenix, as you can see there, plays Napoleon. And this actually takes place over 6 consequential, equally different, but just powerful battle scenes. Some of the best battle scenes that have ever been filmed in all of cinema. Wow. However, there is some critique about it being a little bit factually inaccurate, that it is more pro-British than it is pro-French. And so that's why I think a lot, of people are actually viewing this as slightly a dark comedy as opposed to a drama.
But it is a drama.
Yeah, when you think of Napoleon, it is, a lot of people came out recently saying, like, okay, after you watch this movie, make sure you read books, watch another documentary about this guy, just to make sure that you are, giving the right facts out. But it's supposed to be a beautiful movie, just not sure how factually accurate it is.
And a couple other movies too, right?
Yeah, we do have a couple other movies. Okay, we have Wish on Disney. This one's for you, Joe, as always. This is Disney's sort of, let's bring back animation after Thanksgiving. It used to own and dominate the box office, but animation has kind of been a little rough go since about 2019. This is obviously marking Disney's 100th anniversary, which we've been talking about for quite some time. Ariana DeBose is in this, as well as Chris Pine. This is actually supposed to do over $75 million. What are you looking at, Joe, for?
I've seen it already. And it's not going to be a Disney classic.
Not happy with this one.
That would be a
It's supposed to save Disney's animation, and Joe Fryer is here to say.
Love it. Kids
well, it is. People on TikTok are not that into it either. I've been seeing that.
Yeah. But,
you know. Fair enough. Okay, this other movie I'm actually really excited about. This is Saltburn. This is brought to us by Emerald Fennell, who bought us Promising Young Woman, if you remember that.
It's
sort of
so
this
fabulous.
rape revenge movie. This is sort of her dark take on class warfare in Britain. It stars Barry Keoghan. It stars Jacob Elordi from Euphoria fame. It's super dark. It's very twisted. Honestly, this was the trailer that I think I was most excited for. Critics aren't raving about it. There is a little bit of kind of too much muss and not a lot of fuss towards it. But I love a dark thing. I love anything that's going to give me twists and turns. And it's obviously shot beautifully at this huge mansion and castle. So I do kind of highly recommend seeing this. Joe, have you seen this one yet?
I have not seen that
Okay,
one.
there's hope.
All right,
there is hope.
All right, we actually only have like 30, 40 seconds. Sorry, we took a long time with the turkey. I know you love that, right? What was your favorite part of it? If you're staying in, what should you stream? Just tell us 1 or 2 things.
Okay, Good Burger 2 on Paramount Plus. This is actually my childhood, if we remember Keenan and Kel from all that. They're actually reprising their 1997 role. I've never felt so old. And Carmen Electra's going to be in this. She was in the original. I'm super excited about Good Burger 2. It's actually going to be kind of amazing. And then, of course, tomorrow, we've got the Thanksgiving Day Parade. There's going to be tons of floats. I believe there's 51 floats. There's 25 balloons. I always look for it for the Snoopy balloon. My favorite thing is actually tonight watching all the balloons kind of be blown up in New York City. So that's kind of my favorite thing. You can stream that tomorrow.
And also there's
on NBC.
Cher.
And Santa.
And Cher and John Batiste. It's going to be amazing. Brandy's performing.
All right, Darren.
Happy Thanksgiving. We love y'all. Thank you.
None of us can do it. That's going to do it for this hour morning news now.
The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.